Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I have a fun project for you today. This fits into an A2 envelope. It folds flat and when you pull it out, it pops open to create a shadow box for this beautiful dragonfly, and it's surprisingly easy. I was very inspired by this floral wings stamp set from Pink and Maine, and I am going to stamp that dragonfly in some Memento Tuxedo black ink. This is a specialty alcohol marker cardstock from Spectrum Noir. I'll link it below. I was shocked. This one's pretty affordable, more affordable than like the Express It cardstock. I swear it helped. I swear that this was much easier to color on than what I've been using. If you don't want to watch the coloring, skip forward to 3 minutes and 25 seconds and you can jump in just as we're shellacking this with some shimmer pen. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to include coloring when I use colored images. I am not an expert. It might be story time, but I wasn't sure. So I've tried to put my marker colors up there for you. I have a few things to share in case that's helpful for people. But if people don't care about the coloring, I will do that off camera. And then we can really focus here on the fun fold or the mechanism or the card creation instead. I got a giant box of Ohuhu alcohol markers for my birthday from my husband. I mean, I asked for it, but I still opened it and was like, oh my gosh. It's a ton of markers and it's way more affordable than a Copic because they're not the same quality as Copics. I don't have a ton of Copic experience, but what I know from my research is that the tips here are just not as durable. However, these are reversible tips. So if your tip starts to fray, you can pull it out with some tweezers and flip it around and you have a brand new tip. You can also buy replacement tips and they aren't very expensive. I like that this pack of markers has a brush tip on one end and a bullet tip on the other. I don't really know what I would use a chisel tip for, so this worked pretty well. I'm also throwing in whatever random other markers I have. So there's a couple of Olo markers. There's some Stampin' Up alcohol markers. I'm not sure quite what they call theirs. I'm just going in and I'm trying to make it so that like the insides of the flowers and some of those places where there would be shadows are a little darker than the rest of it. This image was really great for a beginner because the spaces are fairly small. I am super intimidated by large open spaces. Like if I have to blend more than 2 colors, we could run into serious problems. So anyway, this whole set has lots of small little things to color. I'm coming in with the wings and I am using the exact same marker for all of it. I'm just going back over some of those spaces in the wings to make them darker. And I really love how that turned out. I wasn't sure at first, but that coloring is all complete. And we are just going to add a little bit of shimmer to the wings. So it looks, I don't know, a little bit more like there's some movement on there. This is the Spectrum Noir Glitter Gloss Aqua Shimmer Pen. Yeah, I think I said that right. I'm being really careful because that Memento ink can still bleed. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to stamp over this image with some VersaFine on Onyx black because I want a dark, crisp black image and the Memento is sort of a faded black. So I left the stamp in my MISTI and I stamp it down and it's not lined up. You guys, I cried. I cried. It didn't take that long. I mean, I colored it in like 15 minutes maybe. But anyway, so I was very, very careful. This time I've put a little acetate over the top of my piece to make sure everything's lining up where it's supposed to. I've got double magnets. We're going to get it right the second time, I promise. So I am just going to stamp that right over the top. And then you'll see when I lift this up that the dragonfly on the colored one is just darker and crisper than the one below that is only stamped in that Memento ink. This piece of heavyweight white cardstock is 5.5 inches by 6.25 inches, and we're going to stencil some clouds on it. This one is from My Favorite Things, but the second one I made myself. I used that one for a long time. When you buy a cloud stencil like this one, it's nice because you have so many different shapes of clouds, and it's just easier to keep sections from looking like they're repeating the exact same shape. I'm using my Altenew ink here. This is a really like pale purple color. The first one I did was a pale blue, but when I put the Dragonfly on there, because those wings are mostly blue, I felt like it all just kind of bled into each other. So we're coming in with purple, and I am just rotating the stencil. Our panel at 6 1/4 inches is more like a mini slim in width. If I had a mini slim stencil, or if I was going to buy a stencil again, I might look for a slimline cloud stencil. But I'm just rotating and trying to match things up to create sort of a seamless look. And then I'll put some tiny little bits right up at the very top so it doesn't look like I just quit. And that creates our panel. It's super soft, and it's going to create the illusion of our dragonfly flying. I am scoring at 1 inches and 2 inches on each side going the long way, right? So that's 6 1/4 inches across, and I will score at 1 inches and 2 inches, or you can do 1 and 2, and then 4 1/4 and 5 1/4. That would work as well. And this is just creating the side panels for our box. I'm going to fold that very side piece on the edge away from me. So I'm folding it towards the back, and then I'm going to accordion fold for the next one. Okay, so I fold away from me and then towards me. You see it creates this little like Z fold. We will do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm folding the first flap towards the back and the second flap towards the middle. I'm using my bone folder just so that it will lay a little flatter when I go to put this in my envelope. I definitely want to ink blend before I do the scoring and folding, or that ink is going to build up on those creases and it's going to look a little funky. So I have die cut this Happy Birthday from Burniston. It is the perfect size to stretch right across that opening. Any smaller and I would have needed a shadow die. This doesn't have one, but I love the script. I thought it was nice and delicate, and it went well with our dragonfly. So I have twice cut it from black and once from like a matte silver. And I'm just going to add my glue all over. I'm stacking the black up twice. I want to make sure this is sturdy since it is going to span across that opening. I don't want things falling apart. And I know that my silver cardstock is pretty flimsy. Like I've told you before, I'm still using up a stash of really cheap silver cardstock. I came in with a dry brush here, and I'm just kind of scrubbing against that cardstock. Sometimes I get like little hairs on there, and I saw Dawn from W+9 do this, and I was like, oh my gosh, it works. It works. It's not perfect, and I think part of my challenge is that that brush was not like as stiff bristled as I would have liked. I have one somewhere that I'm sure will show up when I unbury like all the things that need to get put away. So I am laying the silver cardstock on top of the black, but slightly offset. I want to create just the littlest bit of a shadow down and to the right. And then there are coordinating dies for all 3 of the images in that Pink and Main stamp set. I was holding my breath. I was worried that it would be hard to line up, but it cuts pretty tightly, and you just line it up so you can see all of the black outline around it, like just barely see it, and it is perfect. I cut this one more time from some heavyweight white cardstock since that Spectrum Noir, like that alcohol marker cardstock, is a little thin. I wanted to make sure that this also wasn't going to get crumpled in the envelope. And then that is our butterfly all stacked up. When I go to put this on my card, I want to be very careful as I am laying it down. You need the angle from the very back to the side to be a right angle. Otherwise, it won't fold flat. So I'm just sort of eyeballing, like, where is this going to be centered? How much of the H and the B are going to overlap? And then I'm squashing the left side down, right? I'm accordion folding it and trying to create the same margin on the left as I have on the right. The right side, I am laying flat. You see that? Right? So I'm holding it here so you can kind of see the fold. And that way, I know I have glue only where I need it. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put it on just a little bit of each of the Y's. And again, I'm going to accordion fold on the left and I'm going to lay it flat on the right. This is how it's going to go into my envelope. So I want to make sure that when I'm gluing it, it's laying flat that way. So I'm going to hold it until that glue grabs. And then I'm going to very carefully kind of straighten it out. And it stands up beautifully. I've got a nice sort of shadow in the back, or shadow box in the back. I'm going to do the exact same thing with this dragonfly. I'm just kind of eyeballing it to see where the wings are going to overlap those side panels. And again, I'm going to squash it flat. Accordion fold on the left, lay it flat on the right, let that glue grab, and that's it, right? I have my 2 die cut pieces here. And then these are some pretty pink Posh sea glass gems. They are very slightly iridescent on the top, and they come in a bunch of different sizes. And so I'm kind of playing around and figuring out where I want them. And I'm going to end up with 3 sets of gems. The first is going to be over here on the right. I'm just going to do a set of 2, a small one and a large one. And I will do the same thing on the top left, a larger one and a smaller one. And I am gluing those down. Let me tell you, if you have an ideal way to pick up your gems in glue, like I hate having to put something down and pick something up, but I'm not left-handed. That is not my superpower. Here, I'm gonna put 3 on the back, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna create problems for myself when the card was closed. So I've squashed it flat to make sure those 3 gems are gonna fit nicely in the envelope. You can see there isn't a lot of bulk on this card. It lays pretty flat. The gems create more bulk than anything else. When you flip this over, I will write my message to my recipient on the back, but you certainly create like an extra panel if you wanted to, or a little mini note card. That is our card project for today. I hope you like this. Let me know in the comments below if you like to watch the coloring, and I will see you again next time.